I would say what I have started to realize in the last few years is that health is sometimes I feel like it's intentionally compartmentalized,
Hmm.
but to have really genuine health, I think it's these three categories, which are often overused: mind, body, and spirit.
Hmm.
And I think you got to have all those in full capacity to truly have health.
Welcome to the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. I'm your host, Chris LeBrun, helping you achieve your goals in every area of life so you can dream big, plan smart, and live fully. Hello, and welcome to the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. My name is Chris LeBrun. I'm your host. I'm a productivity coach. And my guest tonight is Jared Thurmon, a founder and investor who is building transformational ventures at the intersection of wellness and hospitality. I met Jared, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 years ago when he was developing innovative and strategic partnerships for a religious magazine that's been around for over 175 years. His strategic innovation led to this legacy print organization creating a global on-demand media platform. You want to talk about innovation? That's definitely right up there. During that time, he co-produced 6 documentaries and 2 kids series, along with countless other media content. Jared has also served as VP of an international NGO and project manager for a senior living community. But Jared's passion has always been in the health and wellness arena. His work in that space includes developing a 10-week wellness program and app, and serving as president of a natural food company. Now, innovation and growth have also been central to Jared's career, no matter the role or the industry. So it's no surprise that his latest venture is building a 320-acre, all-inclusive luxury wellness resort in the beautiful Arizona desert. Called Santerra, this resort is designed to change the trajectory of someone's life through physical vitality, mental clarity, and spiritual connection. Jared is co-founding Santerra with his wife, Annette, who I think shares his lifelong conviction that true health is the foundation everything else is built on. Jared, it's so great to have you on the Wholistic Productivity Podcast, talking with you again here. It's been a minute, but I'm just excited to hear more about Santerra, what you're doing with that, what you have planned. It sounds amazing, but thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Chris. Man, that I feel like I owe you a favor for such a kind introduction. So thanks,
Look, I've
man.
got a
That's really
crack
kind.
research staff that's out there, doing research on you, and that's what we came up with. I don't know if any of it's true, but that's what we came up with.
Well, sounded cool. So yeah, I think it's all accurate. It checks off. You just made
Hey,
it sound good. So thanks.
I want to start with this conviction that I just mentioned. True health is the foundation that everything else is built on. Where did that conviction and your passion for health come from? And can you break that down? What do you mean when you say that true health is kind of the foundation?
Yeah, thanks. So I would say that a lot of us, when we hear the word health, we lean towards the idea of physical health.
Mm.
So, when we look at someone, we might say, oh, they look healthy or they don't look healthy. And I would say what I have started to realize in the last few years is that health is sometimes I feel like it's intentionally compartmentalized,
Mm.
but to have really genuine health, I think it's these three categories, which are often overused: mind, body, and spirit.
Mm.
And I think you got to have all those in full capacity to truly have health. And so I'll give you an example. You could see somebody walking down the street and man, they look good in a bathing suit, or man, they look like they've come out of the gym and they look like they've just got it going on. And maybe even all their biomarkers, their blood pressure's great, and their weight's good, and all the external things that people usually would assess. But internally, there's just a storm. So emotional pain, relational stress and tension.
Yeah.
A lot of individuals, it's childhood trauma. And it just haunts every conversation, every step down the street.
Yeah.
So So yeah, for me, it's kind of taking on a whole thing that if we're going to live life to the fullest and be happy and joyful, all those things have to be in order. And so in the spiritual realm, I don't so much mean like you have to be religious and be attending church. When I think of spiritual health, I think of, are you at peace when you lay your head on your pillow?
Mm,
Are you at peace when you wake up in the morning?
yeah.
Are you at peace with people and relationships? Or is there some forgiveness that needs to take place? And then when you step into the deeper spiritual realm, there are some individuals who have a grand hostility towards the divine.
Mm,
And it may be from childhood, it may be bad episodes and interactions. It may be very justified, but still there's tension. And so for a lot of people, they'll write off anything supernatural as hocus pocus. But
yeah.
anyway, I say all those things to say I think there's enough evidence today where if we put these three things on the table and we ask someone, tell me how your physical health is. Okay, great. Now we're going to go to mental health. Now we're going to go to spiritual health, which I think encompasses relationships heavily in peace and purpose. Then
Yeah.
you start to realize, okay, then Chris, if I asked you, how are we doing on each of those? Would everything be at a 10? And if it's not, that's where attention should be focused until each of those are moving in tandem and becoming better.
And I think with each one of those things, there are so many ways that we can look fine on the outside and not be on the inside. I've been around people recently who have autoimmune diseases, and you would look at them on the outside and think everything is great, but they are experiencing poor health every single day. They're struggling every single day with that disease that most people know nothing about. Same thing with mental health. I think what you mentioned with spiritual health. So that resonates with me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I've only learned after my dad passed away that he had a pretty traumatic childhood.
Mm,
And I can now see it was a lot of his fuel for his ambition and success. And so I've kind of seen that even in a lot of, especially men. They will fuel, sometimes ladies, but a lot of times men, they will use that fuel from a painful childhood
mm,
as their fuel through life. And they may be successful and wealthy and whatever the metrics that sometimes we like to count. But sometimes the fuel comes from a place of darkness, unfortunately.
yeah. My research team also found something else that you said that I think is interesting. You said how we live should match what we believe. Our work should be an extension of our deepest convictions, not separate from them. I love this because it's very much aligned with the idea that I have of holistic productivity. That's not just a profession that matters, but I'd love to hear what you mean by that, and how can someone make this play out in their own life.
Okay, I'm going to answer that, but tell me what, as you view the idea of holistic productivity, just give me a little understanding of that. That way I could
Yeah, well,
enjoy the conversation more.
I think very much like you just said in the last section, I think there are three things that we need to have in our productivity world to be happy, to be fully fulfilled. And that's the professional, that's the personal, and the things that bring purpose to our lives that are not professional or personal. In so much of what we see out there in the productivity world focuses on your profession. You go get that promotion, get that high C-level sweet job, and again, we can leave the other things behind, and that's not going to keep us fulfilled or satisfied. If the home life is broken and the family is not together, but you're killing it at work, does it really matter? And so there's all that, and I think the same thing is true for the things that bring us purpose in life. I have done a lot of volunteer work, and that has been passions of mine, but I have to still fit that in with all the other areas of life. And so it's just about being intentional about filling all three of those areas with purpose and productivity and focus and attention, so that you can be your happiest, most satisfied self. That's how I look at holistic productivity.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, going back to the question,
Yeah.
give me a refresher right quick, just so I remember.
Well, the quote that you have that you said, how we live should match what we believe. How
Okay.
can somebody really do that in their life and really be an extension of their convictions?
All right. So I took an interesting detour in the midst of COVID where I pastored a church.
Hmm.
And that was 3-ish years. And by the end of it, I was obsessed with the idea that our profession must match our practice.
Hmm.
And so it is very easy, especially in the religious realm, but this can go in lots of places in life, for our words to be one thing, but our actions to be a different thing.
Hmm.
And if we would just be more, maybe, patient with ourselves, forgiving, and yet intentional at the same time, and forthright, that what I say and what I do need to align.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's kind of become this thing where when I get to know people, I really enjoy now letting them know, if you can't tell me what makes you so mad, and if you can't tell me your greatest fears or your greatest joys, or what car you really want to drive, I don't know, we're just going all over.
Yeah.
If you can't be honest with people, I don't think we have time for those people in our lives.
Hmm.
We need someone where we can say, I need to talk to you. There's somebody that I wish wasn't alive. Now, whether that's a good feeling or right feeling, you kind of need somebody just to be like, okay, let's hear it out. Not to give you a little sermon in the moment. Or, hey, I need to be honest with you. I was watching the Masters and I saw this Mercedes green car, and this thing was bad to the bone. And Chris, that's all I can think about. That's what I want. I want that car. Anyway, there's so many relationships that we have that are somewhat superficial and artificial.
Yeah.
And I think we put up a front, we keep a front, and a lot of people are pretty judgy. So I think, unfortunately, for a lot of us, we hold on to surface level friends far too long in life, rather than just say, I need a friend, maybe a few. That'll be just enough. And I need them to be somebody where, if I've committed a criminal act, I can call them and they will not judge me. Or if I've just won the lottery, they will celebrate with me.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people will celebrate your wins. They actually are looking for your losses. So somehow, to really get to a point where you can be transparent, and the people around you can be transparent, then I think it's a lot easier for what you profess and what you practice. Because then I don't think there's as much pressure to profess things that you're really not practicing. For me to say,
Yeah.
Chris, there are certain types of music we shouldn't listen to. And yet, that, well, you love some music that may not be the most
Yeah.
kosher.
Yeah.
Why don't we just be on a journey together, walking together? Uh,
Right.
I think of the story of the road to Emmaus. It's like there was conversation there. There may have been tension and frustration, and
Hmm.
it was transparent. It was genuine. So anyway, yeah, I think for me it's kind of a high calling. Can we align our profession and practice? Let's not profess too much that we get way ahead of our practice. Let's try and
Yeah.
keep them in balance.
Why is that so hard for us to have those deep, authentic relationships? Is it you mentioned traumas before? Is it because of we've been hurt in the past, because we've been open with people and they have let us down and they have taken advantage of that honesty? What is it that you've experienced that kind of lends to why people put up those fences, even with the people who are closest to us?
Yeah, great question. I think sometimes it's maybe just the assumed expectation of the community.
Mm,
That could even be our little family group. Like, well, we don't say that, do that, eat that, smoke that, drink that, right?
yeah,
We don't talk about that. We don't have those feelings or opinions. And then you extend it to, well, the circles we run in, which in some cases are religious communities. Some cases maybe it's the country club, maybe it's the work culture.
yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately, there's just increasingly not a lot of safe places. I talked to somebody today who lives in Miami now, and they said, we found it refreshingly purple. And I said, what do you mean by that? And they said, we came from the north where if you voted red and they voted blue, it's like we can't have dinner together.
yeah,
And I have just, that's been something in my life I've cherished, that I have friends that if they were in the same room, they would get into an all-out brawl. But I love the disparity of ideas, and so they were saying, we can have friends with people that vote differently, and we still have a great dinner. And I thought a lot of people don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what it is, Chris, but I know people are craving it, and I think sometimes it just takes the risk to be willing to say, "Hey, where do you stand on? Do we have to agree on everything to walk together?" And we need to be okay sometimes where people are like, "Hey, if you vote this way or eat this way or do that, I'm not your people." Okay, that's fine. Better to know now than 5 years after a
Right.
fake friendship.
Right. Yeah. I'm reminded, the Surgeon General a couple of years ago came out with a study that talks about loneliness and how loneliness is this epidemic that we are facing here in this country. And I think part of it is because we have put up those walls. We have said, man, your example of they didn't vote the way I did. And so I'm going to put up that wall and keep them out. And I think there are times when walls are necessary to protect ourselves.
That's right.
But maybe we do that a little bit too often, and now we're facing this problem of loneliness that then affects the mental health of people and the spiritual health, the physical health, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I got to tell you a little side story. So I was visiting a friend of mine. He lives in Dallas now, Dallas, Texas, and we were having lunch. And he said, "Hey, you know that data about how Gen Z doesn't drink alcohol as much, and like alcohol companies are changing and all this stuff, Heineken Zero, all this stuff."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, yeah. Are they just healthier? They just know more about the dangers of alcohol?" He goes, "Oh no." He said, "We have the life insurance data. They are dying faster than any generation. They are the sickest. I'm like, "Wait, what?" He says, "Alcohol has been a lubricator for social interaction.
Mm.
And they are so isolated
Yeah.
behind screens." And he
Yeah.
said many of them are turning to THC and marijuana. So it's not like there's no
Right.
substances. But he said, but they're not associating. So that THC and marijuana often is just a isolated by
Yeah.
myself type thing. So he he and I joked it'd be better if they were drinking for their own
Yeah.
health and
Yeah.
happiness than isolating themselves into loneliness and poorer health, which is crazy to come out of my mouth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but in context, it makes sense. It's sad on many levels, and yeah, there's got to be something to that that loneliness aspect, and I did not realize that there was such a health problem with that generation. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a lot of times we're just so quick to judge people and their vices
Yeah,
rather than acknowledging that they might have some pain they're numbing.
yeah, absolutely.
So deal with the pain. Like, hey, what's really going on? I'm not here to judge you for this, but is there something that I had a really good conversation with I would say a close friend of mine this afternoon, and an admittance that hey, there may be some numbing going on.
Yeah. But I think it goes back to that idea that if we can't be our authentic selves and admit that we have those challenges, there's no other release. And so the numbing agents
Yeah.
are where we have to turn to get some of that relief. Man.
Yeah, it's so true.
Let's pause here for a quick break. We'll be right back. If you've ever gone down the rabbit hole of trying every to-do list or project management app, you know how exhausting it can be. You download the app, you set it up, enter all your data, and then scramble to cancel it before the trial ends. Trust me, I've been there and it's no fun. That's why I love Efficient.app. Alex and Andra, a husband and wife team, have spent over a decade testing and reviewing software of all types so you don't have to. Calendars, project management, banking, planners, email marketing, you name it, they've covered it with honest reviews and side-by-side comparisons. And they don't sugarcoat it. If a tool isn't worth your time, they tell you straight up. I've personally found their reviews super helpful when I was trying to sort through different project management apps. It saved me a ton of time and frustration. Best of all, they often have special deals on the tools they recommend so that you can save money. I'm especially grateful to Efficient.app because they've been supporting the Holistic Productivity Podcast since the very beginning. The best way to check them out and support the podcast is through the link in the show notes. So next time you're looking for software, let efficient.app do the work for you. Trust me, you will not regret it. I know that faith is just a huge part of everything you do in business, and not everybody sees business and faith as being compatible. But you say faith and spirituality are more than just compatible. You say they're fuel for entrepreneurship. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I think faith can be such a source of hope and purpose. So without it, a lot of people aren't excited to wake up for the day and what are we going to conquer and believe tomorrow is going to be better than today.
Yeah.
And I feel like faith is the ultimate example, especially a healthy view of faith and spirituality and supernatural, all that stuff. It's the ultimate of the future will be brighter than the past. Tomorrow will be better than today. So I think, in our workplaces, that's such a missing element of just hope and positivity and aspiration. But yeah, I do believe they're fuel. And I would say the biggest thing a few years ago, a mantra I started to try to live by was kindness is king and candor is queen. And I was inspired by a book by Ed Catmull, the CEO of Pixar. He talked about when Disney and Pixar were kind of neck and neck, and then Pixar was just killing it every time, and Disney was kind of going down. He describes in his book, Creativity Inc., the idea of Pixar had candor, and people were willing to be honest with each other. And that's not a common ingredient in a lot of workplaces. And to be honest is to be kind. So I look at being full of integrity and honesty and kindness as extremely high on the faith and spirituality scale. Back to that idea of profession and practice. If the things we profess to believe are not making us better people, in fact, the best people in the workplace or a home or a friendship, those things are a waste of time. And we need to abandon those things because they're not making us better. So for the workplace, I think that to get to the point of kindness, you've got to have role models that emulate that. I personally, in my own experience, can think of no one better than Jesus, who has it all and lays it all down and is willing to live and lead by example. And I think if a lot of people had someone like Jesus, or Jesus specifically, that they could look to and model their lives after, they would want to emulate kindness and honesty and all the values that people love, but that people increasingly aren't sure they even exist in the world, especially in the business world where it's just dog eat dog.
Yeah, cutthroat everywhere. Yeah. Much of your career has been a founder, or certainly centered on startup and innovation and growth. Are you energized by creating and building things from the ground up? Is that kind of a core passion of yours?
Yeah. Okay. So recently I had a friend encourage me to do a DNA test, not necessarily for ancestry, but for health. And so I got the results, and it was, millions of lines of code, and they'd given me a little synopsis, but I'm like, I don't know what this means. So I took it into Claude. I'm like, all right, help me start to read through this data. What are we looking at? What are tendencies? All these things. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to answer your question. So basically, it says that I have some type of dopamine deficiency, that I'm not satisfied for long. And literally, I'd pull it up, but it'd bore you. The words it describes were, you probably like to chase the next thing sooner than the next person because you're dissatisfied with the current thing. And I'm like, oh man, it's in my DNA. It's not just me. And I remember seeing my dad. He was always on, okay, we got this thing figured out. You manage it. I'm going to the next thing. I've probably done that a little bit too much. But it's been helpful in the last recent weeks to identify it. So yeah, I do. I love the pursuit of something that doesn't exist. As soon as I feel like I'm not needed or the next person can maintain and manage it, I get bored with it. And now I can see it's a genetic issue I have to work through.
That's fascinating. I had no idea that went down to your DNA level.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And I got to say, that's pretty bold. I have not done the DNA testing because I'm just a little conspiracy theory, but like getting my DNA out there
Oh, sure.
and somebody having it and but now you've even taken those results and put them into AI, and like you're going the next level of conspiracy because
Yeah,
now that's all over the place.
that's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
you're living on the edge there. Uh,
Yeah.
but honestly, that would be fascinating to learn what makes you tick on that genetic level, because I think I'm in my 50s now, and I would say I've probably learned more about myself in the last 5 years than in the 46 years before that. And I don't know what that journey has been about, but it's been fascinating. And I'm just like, why didn't I meet myself 20, 30 years ago? Right. So many things could have been solved or been different or better, or I wouldn't have made so many mistakes, but maybe that's helpful too. I don't know.
Is there any bit of advice that bubbles to the top? You're like, if I told my 30-year-old self this would be the advice I'd tell
Honestly, I think I share some of this idea, this passion of starting things from scratch. That's one of the things that I've realized in the last few years, that I love building things.
him.
And a little bit of that same thing, not that I get bored or that I want, but I'm much more excited about the building of it than the running of it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and I think when I first started realizing that, I probably thought it was a bad thing. I think that I've leaned into that a little bit more and said, no, that's where my God-given gifts are, to take something that somebody else sees as just, not possible and make it happen. Why not lean into that if that's really but to now hear that that's part of my DNA, I'm fascinated. I might go take the test now, Jared. I don't know.
There we go. Then you can explain to your wife, your family, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
just tell, this
there's
is
a
who I
lot of
am.
explaining to do. There's a lot of explaining to do.
Right.
And if you have a referral code, I'd be happy to use yours so that you can get credit for it. So just,
there you go.
we'll talk about that. But tell me about this. You took, because I'm just fascinated. And I got to see a little bit of this in real time, but you took a 175-year-old print magazine and you helped transform it into having a global media platform. What's your philosophy when it comes to innovating inside like a legacy institution like that versus starting something from scratch? Is it the same? Is it different? Where does that land for you?
Oh yeah. I think it's so much harder.
Mm.
Sometimes institutions get to the point where all that exists is survive
Yeah.
at all costs. And it's interesting. So yeah, there was a lot. There was just the wind was behind us. The leader of the organization, a guy named Bill Knott, was open to ideas, and boy, the ideas were flowing. And we were trying a lot of stuff because you don't know necessarily what works.
Yeah.
And boy, we had a team of innovators. We could lock in a room. We ended up painting this one side of a conference room with whiteboard paint. We were just on the walls thinking up ideas. So yeah, there was a lot of things I think that we started to see move the needle in different ways, but some things we probably didn't see to their full fruition, because
Mm.
sometimes when you start to, what is it, shake up the apple cart, or remove the cheese, there can be some alarm bells that go off from others.
Yeah.
So yeah, working inside an organization is, to me, 10 times, 100 times more difficult.
Mm.
And I've actually seen that as a reason. I see a lot of entrepreneurs have hesitation working inside of churches because they just feel like they're not going to do it differently. I'm not going to give them my money to waste. And I think if there was a way where large institutions could give more of the innovative freedom to the entrepreneurial mind, the builder, inventor mind,
Yeah.
we would see a lot of cool things happen. But I can say and see that that's a real tension from protect the organization versus innovate.
But yet we know that if there's not growth, if there's not innovation, if there's not change, there will be, sliding back. I mean, everything else is changing around us. If I'm staying still and not moving forward, I'm going to get lost at some point.
Yeah, you're right. And I would say, we have great case studies with Blockbuster mocking Netflix and with Kodak mocking new technologies. Like we see, there's just so few massive entities from the past that sustain through the years.
Yeah.
So I remember a friend of mine worked with Google's, what do they call it? Anyway, like where they test all their ideas.
Mm.
Skunkworks, I think it's called, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, and they basically, it was the idea of you guys go invent, stay arm's length away, we'll run the company. I think that's probably the best way large institutions could do it. Let
Mm.
the Tasmanian devils do their thing. And if anything really does bubble to the surface, adopt it, implement it, systematize it, and have them go do their own thing again. Because those two worlds, boy, I don't see a lot of success stories where a big company continues to innovate at the speed of the little guys.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to me that you use Google as the example because are they even 30 years old? I mean, it's not like it's a legacy company, but they are in many ways the giant in the room now. And the innovators are coming and chipping away at what they have because they're innovating more than Google is. I mean, that's how you have to, or else you get bought up by Google and then, you just become part of the family.
And that's usually what it's done. And now that I think about it more, maybe Lockheed or Boeing that has Skunk Works. But anyway, the idea is there where these different entities do have an innovative outfit
Yeah.
that they try and operate for keeping the spark alive.
Yeah. Tell me about your new venture. What's keeping the spark alive these days? Santerra, this 320-acre, all-inclusive luxury wellness resort in Arizona. I don't know if you're taking reservations yet, but I'm ready to sign up. I don't know. You got me at hello, right?
Yeah,
But where
boy,
did
I'm
this
ready.
where did this idea come from, and what's your vision for this space?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, big picture, you would like this. I want individuals who may be in a rut, may be stuck, maybe they got all the quote unquote success in the world, but they're looking
Mm,
for something more. We want to
yeah.
create a place where those individuals can come and learn how to find more purpose, really level up those mind, body, spirit levels of health, and then go back and change the world, make a bigger dent. So,
Mm,
productivity on steroids. But the
yeah.
idea came from my dad. So my dad was a successful entrepreneur, and it was about 20 years ago this week. We were at Augusta National for the Masters, and
Mm.
he dissected his carotid artery. And that began a journey where he dissected his other. He should have died, had tumors on his adrenal glands,
Oh
didn't
my
see any
goodness.
hope in the traditional field. So he ended up going to a wellness retreat out west. And they taught things like we're going to juice and we're going to eat fresh foods and we're going to walk
Yeah.
and exercise. And then the hardest one, we're going to forgive people. And he remember telling me like, this is a new one. And man, I got to go apologize to guys and forgive some people that wronged me. And all the other stuff seemed easier. And so from that, he saw his tumors disappear.
Wow.
And so that was kind of an idea. We're like, man, we had done some senior living development stuff. And so he and I talked about, could we make a place that was pretty nice?
Mm,
He ended up, after that, went to India and Haiti and began to do some really big mission projects. He just felt this new lease on life. And
mm.
unfortunately, one of those trips home, he died in a car accident. So
Oh,
I kind of put all the vision on ice. But a few years ago, kind of had the bug again and thought, man, when people want to find healing, they want sunshine. It lives in Arizona. So went looking in Arizona for quite a bit of land that was pretty remote because I think
yeah.
also people love silence, fresh air, dark skies at night. So
Mm,
we found a place in Northwest Arizona that's spectacular. And yeah, our vision is 34 private villas where, Chris, you have your own spa, you have your own pool, you have your
mm.
own hot tub, your own cold plunge, your own sauna, steam shower,
Wow.
outdoor soaking tub. The whole resort is powered by the sun, and we have our own regenerative organic farm. So this is something we're
Wow.
building, and we hope that when you come there, we'll find some way to measure your mental, physical, spiritual health. You experience our place for a few days, a week, or however long, and then we'll measure that again a few months later. And what we believe the science shows and what we intend to provide is you're going to see measurable differences in those categories after you come spend a few days with us and just have an amazing time. So We're building it on evidence-based science and medicine, but yet the top secrets of luxury hospitality. But at the end of the day, just a place you would love to be with your friends and meet new friends that we think is going to be spectacular.
And then are you offering classes or things, or am I just kind of hanging out in my villa and enjoying the hot tub and the cold plunge and the spa, or are you educating me while I'm there in how I can find these forgiveness that I need to find, or focus more on my mental health,
Yeah,
or
sure.
whatever it
Great.
is that I need to do?
Right. Yeah. More purpose, more, yeah, all the things. So, yeah, we're going to ask you right now. The plan is to offer 7 tracks. And when you book, we're going to ask you, Chris, what do you want more of in your life? Whatever your answer is to that question, we're going to build an itinerary so that you get
Mm.
results by the end of your stay. So let's say you said, I want better sleep, or I
Yeah.
want to think more clearly. I need better cognitive performance, or men's health or women's health, hormonal
Yeah.
stuff for men or women, strength. Anyway, we've got 7 different tracks that are pretty exciting that we believe we can offer a customized itinerary for you where if you want to be busy and you want to make it happen, we can keep that. If you, at any time of the day you're like, I'm going to chill in my sauna, then there's a path to do that too. So nobody's going to get bored, but it definitely is going to be an itinerary where you will leave feeling better than you came. Those metrics will have gone up,
Yeah.
and we think it's a place you'll leave and say, I don't need a vacation from my vacation, but
Yeah.
I got a new lease on life, and hopefully people want to come back as often as they can or want to say, I want to tune up, or I want to just to get that feeling again. And we're going to keep in touch with everyone and build a community where when they go back home, they're in our world, we're in their world now, and it's not going to be just a client customer type relationship.
Let's pause here for a quick break. We'll be right back. Living with pain is no fun at all. Whether it's sore muscles from a workout, nagging joints, or even stress that just won't leave you alone. That's why I love Little Golden Shepherd. They make all natural butters from organic herbs and essential oils, formulated to ease pain, reduce stress, and even soothe sensitive skin. I use the muscle butter after tough workouts, and the joint butter is perfect for my knees, which somehow were bad even when I was a kid. I'm so grateful to have Little Golden Shepherd sponsoring the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. The way they support the show is super simple. Every time you shop through the link in the show notes, a portion of your order helps keep this podcast going. And here's the best part. If you use the promo code WHOLEPROD, you'll save 15% on your first order. That's promo code WHOLEPROD, WHOLPROD. Try Little Golden Shepherd today. You're going to love it as much as I do, and your muscles will too. I know you've talked about hospitality being a big part of this vision for Santerra. Why is that such an important component for you guys as you're working on this? Because it is it just because you're going to have high level guests in and you need to treat them right, or is there really more to it than that comes with the healing and the rejuvenation and all of that?
Yeah, great question. So, I think when we talk about productivity, I think productivity happens when someone feels comfortable and at peace and looked after. When you think of employers, if an employer looks after me, gives me a good workspace, a good culture, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to perform. I'm going to produce. So why hospitality? I believe there's something about high performers. You've got to get them out of their grind.
Yeah.
I think it's very hard to do it in their home setting. So if you get somebody out of their world,
Yep.
then it's all right. Am I going to have the best night of sleep ever? So talk to me about the bedding and the
Yes.
sleep conditions and why is this going to be my best night's sleep? Talk to me about why. We're going to ask you, hey, you like some Bob Marley? We're going to play Bob Marley upon arrival. You can play all the music you want of some Bob Marley. And And what kind of drinks do you like? Now, the place uniquely is going to be a non-alcoholic resort,
Okay.
which in the beginning stages, people thought we were crazy. Now people think that's going to be like one of the cat's meow things
Right.
we provide with, but it's not no fun. It's mocktail drinks and lots of
Yeah.
fun. And I had the privilege to work with a buddy of mine, and we did some juice bars for a while. So we're going to have the freshest, most delicious juices on demand that you've ever
Yeah.
imagined in your suite. But hospitality, I think, is the ultimate form of kindness being demonstrated
Mm.
throughout a day and stay, which can be exhibited in our companies, in our homes. It's just looking after people. So I think that makes them feel cared for and looked after. And then I think they will then have the energy to look after themselves and their own health and really get to work and say, all right, I'm here to change my life, and I'm committed to whatever I learn here to continue back home, not to be
Yeah.
just a drug they have to come to us to get.
Yeah. Now, I mean, 320 acres, 34 villas. I mean, this is a big undertaking, and I'm guessing maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I'm guessing it's probably not all that scary for you. You seem like a guy that's not all that scared by a big goal. I'm wondering, you're doing this with your wife. You guys are co-founding this together. Is that the scariest thing? I mean, that you're doing this with her, because that can be, it's a stress on its own, right? To work with your spouse. I don't think everybody is set out to do that. And starting a business, it's a huge venture. Your partner is your partner. Talk about that. How does that work in the Thurmon house?
Yeah. So I grew up in a house where my mom and dad worked together, but it sometimes felt like my dad wanted my mom to work for him
Right.
and do all the stuff that he didn't want to do. And she
Right.
did it and did it well. Later on, he realized she can manage things better than he could, and he can start things maybe better than she could. So there was a good teamwork. Um, with Annette and I, neither of us wants to work for the other.
Yeah.
And so we've found some lanes where Annette has skills that I don't have, nor do I want, and
Yeah.
she can kill it. So I think for us, as we've kind of in the beginning, it was my baby, and as she saw me maybe limping along or moving along, I think she saw you need me in these areas, and I'm going to run with it. So I'm doing my best not to interfere with
Yeah.
all the design and all the programming, and she's pretty good at just make sure it's built right and the business model is solid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we found a good place where it's working right now, and but that is a delicate thing
Yeah.
for people in a romantic relationship to work together.
Yeah, I have seen that. I think the industry, the businesses that I've been in the past, you have a lot of that happening for whatever reason, where spouses are working together. And again, it can be great for some people, and maybe not in other areas.
It's
I know
true.
you guys have a farm that you run as well, and
Yeah.
she's involved in that, and so I know you guys have experience with that. But this sounds like it's a big thing. What is the timeline? Where are we in the process? It seems like it was just announced, kind of the name of it, not too long ago, maybe a month or so ago.
Yeah. So
Again,
actually, yeah, it's going live this week as we speak. So
yeah,
we're super excited. The timeline, we've been getting our permits back and meeting with some additional investors. It's gotten a little nicer along the way. So needing a little more funding to make it come to life. And then probably an 18 to 24 month build. My
okay,
goal is before this, but ultimately got to hit it by this, would be the Olympics in 28.
oh
It's going to be such an influx, I think, of
yeah,
individuals that can afford to come here internationally. And for those with the means, we're 4 hours from LA or 30-minute or less flight. There's a private airport down the road. So
oh
some
wow,
people might take advantage of that. So yeah, it's a big deal. We've been working on it for a few years now. A lot of permits, rezoning,
yeah.
but it's spectacular. Yeah, it's a neat place. I can't wait to share more pictures and videos here in the coming
Oh,
days.
that's awesome. It sounds amazing, and I'll definitely have to check that out sometime. Uh, I don't travel as much as I used to, which has positives and negatives, but I'll definitely let you know next time I'm out in Arizona. I'd love to
I'd
come see
love to
the
show
place.
you the place.
Yeah, I'm sure. I talk a lot about the importance of self-care and how it relates to productivity. What would you say to that high achiever who keeps putting their health last because they're so focused on their goals? And it sounds like you would tell them, come to Santerra, we've got a way for you to correct that. But other than that, what would you tell them, somebody who's just too focused on the goals and not on their health?
Yeah, I would say you better make a lot of money because you're going to need it when your health fails. Because
Yeah.
most people I know that have grinded intensely, eventually the health gives.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make light of it, but it's true. So yeah, I've got a few friends. They grind and grind and grind. I did that for a while, and in my health, I kind of found a season it failed.
Yeah.
It was bad. The clocks weren't a thing. It was 2 a.m. and I'm working. This is great. Until
Yeah.
your body's like, no, this ain't great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would tell somebody, what is the purpose of your life? What brings you joy? Do you want to continue to have that after you make all the money? And a lot of people lose all their health and some friends and some relationships. And then they've got the money, but you can't go buy all that stuff you lost.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way we can enjoy it along the way and bring a little more balance in. So I think some daily self-care, some paying attention to yourself and what makes the body tick and measuring it along the way are ways in which we can live our best life.
And it seems like that's harder for us guys. I don't know why that is. I hate to be stereotypical, but the girls love going to the spa, right? Although my wife does not want to go to a massage at all. I am the one that's like, yeah, let's go to the spa. Let's go get the massage. And she's like, no, I don't want any part of that. But it seems like it's harder for us guys to do that. And again, that's been an important part of my life in the last few years because I was out there doing the same thing, burning the candle at both ends. Why is it much harder for guys to do that than women, do you think?
Yeah, probably historically it's just been viewed as a sign of weakness, and you're supposed to be able to work from sunrise till way after the sun set, and it's been a
Yeah.
badge of honor. I think now that we realize health is the new wealth, I'm convinced of that.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
a lot of people they're forced to come to that realization, especially guys. So yeah, if guys would realize people count on me. I bring something to the world. I need to be here for as long as I can to achieve all of the dreams and goals and purpose in my life. To do that, you have to dial it back 10%
Mm.
and just say, every day, I'm going to do these things for my health. They are not selfish. They will make me happier and the people around me happier. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a drastic thing, but I do think it's, if guys would give themselves an hour to 90 minutes a day for their health, mental, physical, and spiritual, the world would be a different place.
Mm. Yeah. Jared, I got to say, I love your newsletter. I just found it not too long ago. I love it. You're sharing fascinating information. It's making me think, and you definitely know how to write an attention-grabbing headline. I mean, that is fantastic.
Thank you.
I love that you're not afraid to tackle subjects that a lot of people might find taboo, like sex.
Yeah.
But you're not doing it in a tasteless or crude way. I mean, you're just out there talking about it. And I'm guessing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. A few months ago, you wrote about sex, and I'm guessing that you probably got some complaints about that. And so you followed that up like 3 or 4 weeks later with another article about sex.
Yeah, that sounds right. I was thinking, when did I do that? Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, but I'm curious, what is the motivation behind your newsletter? I mean, it doesn't feel like you're pushing a brand or that you're even pushing you as the brand, which, I mean, that's okay. I do that. If you're listening and you haven't signed up for my newsletter, go ahead and do that at
There we go.
holisticproductivity.com. No, I like, but what is this just a passion project that you have to share these thoughts that you have? Cause I love it. Whatever it is, I love it.
Oh, man. Thanks, Chris. So, preaching, when I was preaching every week, I had a creative outlet every 7 days that was hard. But when I stopped, I realized I missed it.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because it's like all week in my notes phone on my phone, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I'd sometimes write sermons like months in advance. I want to do a study on that. I want to talk about this today.
Yeah.
So yeah, after a while, I was like, man, I don't have any creative outlet. So the newsletter became that. For every week, I could dig into something. I just love the idea of some random idea. Let's just dig into it
Yeah.
and tease it out and what's it all about, and then you got to write about it. So yeah, on sex, sex is one of those things. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's never talked about in any healthy manner. You would think it was an illicit drug.
Yeah.
And in my own life, yeah, it was my own health journey where it's like I got to the point where I'm like, I'm not really interested in. And I'm like, wait a second, am I healthy? Like, is that
Is something
normal? And
wrong?
yeah, exactly. So I started to realize, and some studying where it's like a healthy libido is the sign of a healthy body.
Mm.
Where the other end of that is, I don't want to think about loving anyone, having sex with anyone. I want to be by myself, and whatever, isolating ourselves
Yeah.
and just taking care of ourselves like a survivalist element versus a flourishing element, which is I am so good in my own right. I have energy to give and life to give and to help. And you talked about volunteering.
Yeah.
Volunteering doesn't come from a place of I need more time by myself. It comes from a place like I'm good and I want to help somebody else. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do. I love to talk about topics that people don't usually enjoy talking about. And sex is one where it gets some attention and can relate so much with health.
Yeah. No, all the articles that I've read have been fantastic. We'll put a link in the show notes where people can sign up for your newsletter. I'm sure
Oh, that'd
you're
be
okay
great.
with that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So that I would encourage everybody to do that. I end every episode with what I call the questions. These were inspired by James Lipton, host of Inside the Actors Studio, and it's based on the Proust questionnaire. So I'm going to just fire these off rapid fire on my end. Feel free to take as much or as little time as you want to answer these. Everybody gets the same questions. What motivates you, Jared?
I am motivated by believing life should be enjoyed, that there was an original intention for the world that was a place of pleasure, and that plan has been paused,
Hmm.
but that paradise will be restored. And I'm motivated to taste it on a daily basis and, if possible, do things that help others taste it so they want to experience it over and over and over again for as long as possible. That's what motivates me.
What discourages you?
When people know better and don't do better.
One word that describes you at your best.
Audacious.
One word that describes you at your worst.
Faithless.
Hmm. Other than family or work, what gives you purpose?
I think engagement. I love to engage with people on things that either we agree or disagree on. So that's probably why I like to write and create content, because I love the engagement element. I feel a purpose when I create, and then there's resonance.
Yeah. What guilty pleasure brings you joy?
Guilty. I need to say something that's like people wouldn't just be like, "Oh, that's dumb." Guilty pleasure brings me joy. I mean, I love to listen to loud music. I love it. I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure. I love to play golf. It's 5 to 6 hours of no purpose. But more guilty, man. I need to think of something more salacious, but loud, obnoxious music in a car, ideally with no roof. That is a guilty pleasure I absolutely love.
How do you, how do you celebrate a win?
I am really bad at that. But how do I celebrate a win? Man, I don't know. I'm really bad about that. I'm trying to get better at measuring little wins through life. Like too many times I look at the end goal and like I'll celebrate that win, but it's like there's 20 wins in between. So how do I celebrate a win? Maybe go out eat somewhere fun with my wife and little girl. That's a fun win.
How do you bounce back after a loss?
Lately it's been I'll go bake in my sauna and maybe go jump in the cold plunge. Really trying to manipulate the cortisol out of my body. I feel like I have to do intentional things to bounce back from lows. So yeah, I'm trying to think of how do I make my body feel better than it does.
Yeah. Who is the last person you expressed gratitude towards?
It would have been this afternoon. I sent an email to somebody just expressing how much they have impacted my life. His name was Gary.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
I would tell my 25-year-old self, if you are going to make a dent in this world, you need to live long enough to see it happen. So put your health, physical health first. I would actually say physical health, then mental health, and spiritual health. I think that's the advice I would give myself. Where I would say for many years, Chris, I probably reversed that order.
Yeah.
But you got to have a healthy body for the mind and spirit to function well. So I would tell my younger self, put your health first.
Yeah. That's great. Jared, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I appreciate it. It was a fantastic conversation. I'm so excited to see this vision come together. I mean, all these years that you've been thinking about it and dreaming about it, talking with your dad and your wife. I love that and wish you all the best. And just thank you for being here. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Chris. You too. This is a great program. I'm excited for you.
Thanks. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with Jared and myself. Check out the show notes. You can find those at wholisticproductivity.com. Again, I will link to Jared's LinkedIn, his newsletter, link to Santerra, so you can kind of watch that coming together, all of the things that connect back to him. Make sure you follow and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. I think they say like, follow, and subscribe. I think that's the way that the professionals do it. So we're on YouTube as well. You can check that out, watch the show. New episodes are dropping every single week. You do not want to miss that. So that just keeps those right at the top of your feed. And we'd love to see that. If you enjoyed the show today, I mean, it's all Jared, but if you enjoyed the show today, we'd love to have you rate 5 stars on your favorite platform. However you watch or listen, that's where you want to rate it. Follow at Wholistic Productivity on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack, all of the social medias. It's not all bad out there. I know social media gets this bad rap. My channels are good. Everybody else, questionable, but come follow at Wholistic Productivity and join the community. There's a link in the show notes where you can join the Wholistic Productivity community. So many great people from all around the world sharing resources and their story about goals. I've got a lot of great resources in there for you as well. And it's just a fantastic place to be. All right. Thank you again for being here. Love that you are spending this time with us. The reason that I'm here, the reason that we do the podcast is to help you dream big, plan smart, and live fully. And I'm just so excited to see that happen in your life. And I can't wait to see what that looks like. Until next time, thanks again. We'll see you later. Take care.